Hello, everyone. Mike Fuson here from Excalibur Data Systems. I'm joined by Brian Parks from Synapse Software. Brian, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, as many of you will have seen, we've partnered with the team at Synapse to bring you Cortex. Cortex is a tool and solution for customers that are moving off of Cherwell, whether that be to neurons for ITSM with Avanti or another solution, and you need the ability to be able to see and work with the Cherwell data that's in your Cherwell database. For many customers, Brian, as we talked about, the right solution is not necessarily importing all of that data, but many customers have a compliance or other regulatory requirement to be able to get to that data. So the question always is, well, how do we get to that? And what the team at Synapse has done is built the Cortex platform that gives us the ability to see that data. We like to say in a way that you're used to seeing it. So the forms you're used to seeing in your Cherwell system, and being able to search that data and report on that data. Brian's a tinkerer. It's never finished. There's always another thing to do. We get regular email updates from Brian, and hey, I was thinking about this. What do you guys think about this idea? And we're like, okay, there's just more to make it better, easier, more user-friendly. So, Brian, what's been going on in the Mad Science Lab with Cortex of late?
Yeah, well, like you said, quite a bit. I like tinkering, but I am trying to keep this focused on the need at hand, right? And the big important aspect is obviously getting access to the database. Getting access to the data in a familiar format. So BizOut forms that you're familiar with from Cherwell is kind of where I've been focusing a lot of the time, making sure that shows up correctly. But then second to that is also getting to the individual records. So initially I went through this whole process of implementing saved searches because they're already in the database. That seems easy enough. Then I realized that if the data is not changing and the searches aren't changing, what good is that? That's great. That's a snapshot, right? So I've started adding the ability to do custom searches. So not just search for a term and hope it comes back with the results that you're looking for, but actually filter down those results by the fields on the record. And coming here shortly, I plan to do things a little more in depth, like traversing relationships and that sort of thing. Certainly supporting the things that Cherwell's search did, but I'm going to try to implement some things that Cherwell maybe didn't have implemented. The reason for that is, yes, I'm a tinkerer. I would love to just engineer this stuff, but most importantly is that it's useful from the perspective of trying to find the record that you're actually trying to get to. In Cherwell, it might have been sufficient to just traverse a relationship and kind of filter down by, hey, find a record with this value. But if you're looking for particular records that happened during particular incidents, changes for particular customers, whatever, those relationships can start to get a lot more complex. And ultimately, you need to get the record that you're actually looking for. And if I can implement a way to make that happen, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and this is something that we've seen as we've talked with Brian from kind of the inception of this now to a product that customers are using. There are customers that are already using Cortex, and by licensing the product, you get these updates as part of your licensing, and really, the core goal initially is this ability for customers to get to the records or sets of records that they need to get to, especially for these compliance and regulatory stuff. And we think it's a great solution because a customer could, in theory, put the database in a read-only mode where it very clearly cannot be manipulated in any way. The data can be very, very secured. This gives you that looking glass into that data and the ability to pull those things as you're going through an audit or a compliance thing without the need for you to try to figure out, okay, how do we move this data over to our new IT service management platform? Because take a customer that's implementing neurons for ITSM. There's an opportunity to reimagine service catalogs. There's an opportunity to reimagine processes, even in there, that may exclude fields or include new fields. And a lot of times merging that data over for historical purposes gets very, very complicated very, very quickly. And how do we now effectively report on the old data and the new data? And are we, crosswalking the service catalog? There's a whole bunch of stuff that you start to go down a rabbit hole. And for many customers, it's like, well, a change that happened 2 years ago, we just need to be able to get to it because that's what we're being questioned on in an audit. And we want to be able to get to it, show the details, do print screens, print out data, whatever it is we need to do from an output perspective for the auditors to be able to do the things they need to do. So it's been kind of exciting. I know you post updates, Synapse posts updates on things that are happening. Brian and I are going to schedule a full walkthrough of Cortex for everybody, do a nice little end-to-end demo, and talk about kind of the what's next for the Cortex platform in being able to deliver a solution for Cherwell customers that have this need. And it's not a small need. This is kind of a big deal. How do we get to this? And hey, we can give you something that lets you see it, as you said, Brian, in a familiar format. The forms as you're used to. So visually, we're humans tend to be visual animals. We know where on the screen that field should be or where that data might have lived. You get to see it. You can get through the tabs and everything else that are there, and being able to see, visualize, understand the data for a single record, but also be able to do searches and bring back 5 or 6 records that may meet a certain criteria as you continue to evolve the search capabilities within Cortex. I find it so exciting because it does eliminate one of those major issues that customers have when moving off of a system. And everyone that has Cherwell has to move off to a new system because, of course, it's going to be end of life. And for some customers, they have to have a 10-year look-back period, from an audit and compliance perspective. And wow, do we really want to move that large amount of data into our brand new shiny system where the data may not provide a lot of value? I'm not going to get a lot of. I have, in all of my years of implementing IT service management systems, have not yet seen a case where there's an ROI on the effort to moving old data. It just isn't. It just isn't there. And this bridges that gap in a very, very cost-effective way to be able to have those capabilities and have them until you don't need them anymore. Brings a lot of good things to bear. So I'm excited, looking forward to sharing this with our customers, the ones we haven't already talked to about it. Many of them already know about it, participate in things with Excalibur and with Brian from Synapse in different discussions. So very, very excited to do that. Any word to the wise, Brian? Like, is there anything we should be getting all titillated about that may be coming?
I mean, you should always get excited about what I haven't even thought of yet, because it's going to be awesome. I'm going to enjoy it at the very least, and I'm sure you all will too. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of double down on, and I'm sure you all are going to be sick of hearing Mike and I talk about this, because we mentioned it in the last video. I'm going to mention it here. This really allows you to separate the decision of what to move to for your day-to-day ITSM operations versus data archival. And these videos are primarily targeted at people who are using Cherwell and ultimately moving off of Cherwell. But I had a conversation with someone at a company that another ITSM provider to which lots of Cherwell customers are moving. And I showed them what I'm doing with Cortex, and the response was, "Wait a minute. So this means that I don't have to." He was in the professional services arm of the organization. This means I don't have to figure out a way to export data from Cherwell and import it into my tool. And I said, yes, absolutely. So it's not just a tool for people who are currently using Cherwell and moving off of Cherwell. It helps the entire migration process just work that much more smoothly because the people implementing the new system don't have to worry about the data from the old system anymore. Just use Cortex, and the data doesn't have to move anywhere. You don't have to make any changes to the data. There's very little configuration. Like Mike said, you can put the SQL database into read-only mode because unlike Cherwell, even to log into Cortex, you don't need write access to the database. That's separated completely off. Um, yeah, this is exciting for me too. Just seeing the reaction over the last few months from everybody involved in Cherwell migrations.
Well, and I know you've been getting a lot of community feedback on things they'd like to see. So one of those new ideas is going to
Yeah,
come from somebody throwing something out there and Brian stroking his beard contemplatively and going, I think we could do that. And we'll see it become a thing. But it's an exciting opportunity because, as you said, it does divorce those two things and sets customers up for success in their whatever their move forward plan is. So very, very exciting. So I look forward to having you on again, Brian, very soon, and giving everybody kind of an end-to-end demo of the Cortex solution. Thanks for joining me today.
thank you.
All right. We'll see everybody again soon. Take care.